Something happened to you during the equinox. You may not have named it yet. You may not have found the precise language for it. And in fact, the absence of language for what you are experiencing is one of the most consistent reports coming through the collective right now. This sense that something shifted, something completed, something landed in the body that was not there before. And yet the ordinary vocabulary of daily life offers no container for it. You have been moving through the hours since the equinox window closed with a quality of difference that you keep noticing and then setting aside because the world around you continues to demand your participation in its ordinary rhythms, and there is no obvious place in those rhythms to stop and say, wait, something happened, something changed. I am not the same frequency I was before that window opened, and the fact that you cannot name it precisely is not a failure of perception. It is evidence of the size of what occurred. The things that most significantly alter the fundamental architecture of a being are rarely the ones that arrive with clear labels. They arrive as a quality of difference in the way light enters the room, as a change in the texture of silence, as a new kind of knowing that precedes the words that would describe it. Mira, speaking now through the Pleiadian High Council, wants to say to you with the first words of this transmission, what you are feeling is not random. What you are experiencing in your body, in your sleep, in your emotions, in the quality of your inner knowing. None of it is without cause, without direction, without meaning. Every sensation that has arrived in the hours and days since the equinox is a data point in a coherent message that your activated system is transmitting to your conscious awareness. And this transmission has been designed to help you read that message with precision. You have been noticing something in the mornings. There is a quality to the first moments of waking that has changed, a clarity that arrives before thought, before the mind begins its inventory of the day, before the body has fully returned to its ordinary operational state. In those first seconds of consciousness, something is different. The space feels larger than the room. The silence has a texture it did not have before. And then the mind arrives, and the day begins, and you carry that initial impression with you like something you almost remembered and could not quite retrieve. This is not imagination. This is not wishful perception. This is the first measurable symptom of post-equinox activation, the altered quality of the transition between sleep and waking. And it is measurable precisely because it is so consistent across the earth collective that Mira has been observing since the window closed. The consciousness that returns to waking after a significant activation event is not returning to the same vessel it inhabited before that event. The energy body has been restructured. The light body has been reconfigured. The dimensional interface between the sleeping consciousness and the waking awareness has been recalibrated to operate at a wider aperture. And that wider aperture is what you feel in those first morning seconds as the quality of arrival being different. The room is the same. The body is in the same bed. The light through the window is the same light, but the consciousness that perceives all of this has been altered at a structural level. And that structural alteration is what generates the persistent sense of the familiar being somehow new. You have not gone anywhere different. You have become someone with a wider capacity to perceive the place you have always been. The physical symptoms that have been clustering in the days since the equinox window are not the symptoms of illness, depletion, or regression, even when some of them carry a quality of discomfort that the conditioned mind immediately attempts to categorize as one of those three. Mira wants to move through each of the primary physical symptom clusters with precision, because the precision of the understanding is not separate from the activation process itself. When you understand exactly what is happening in your physical system and why it is happening, the resistance that the not knowing generates dissolves, and the dissolution of resistance is what allows the post-activation integration to complete with maximum efficiency and minimum duration of discomfort. The first and most commonly reported symptom cluster is fatigue of a specific quality, not the fatigue of too little sleep or too much exertion, but a bone-deep heaviness that has no proportional relationship to what you have actually done in the hours preceding it. You can sleep 8 hours and wake with this fatigue already present. You can rest in the middle of the day and find that the rest does not reduce it. This is not your physical body running out of energy. This is your physical body running a process of enormous energetic complexity. In the background, a process it cannot pause. A process it cannot externally communicate. A process whose energy cost presents to your conscious awareness as a heaviness that the ordinary explanations do not adequately address. The light body integration that follows a significant activation event is, in physical metabolic terms, more demanding than almost any sustained physical activity. The restructuring of the energy body requires resources, real, physical, cellular resources. And the experience of those resources being drawn into this restructuring is the experience of the specific quality of post-activation fatigue. If what you have heard in these first moments of this transmission is already landing in your body as recognition, not just as information processing in the mind, but as something that is physically resonating in the chest, the stomach, the back of the throat, then Mira is asking you to do something right now. Before we go further, subscribe to this channel. Activate every notification, because what is being transmitted through the celestial station is not content for passive consumption. It is a living signal designed to reach the beings who are ready to receive it. At the exact moment they are ready to receive it. And if you are here now, feeling what you are feeling as these words arrive, you are one of those beings. This transmission does not end when the video ends. The next one continues what this one begins. You need to be here for it. Subscribe now. The emotional landscape in the days following a significant equinox activation has a specific topography that Mira wants to describe with care, because it is the emotional dimension of post-activation experience that generates the most confusion, the most secondary suffering, and the most risk of a being misinterpreting genuine spiritual progress as emotional regression. What has been happening in the emotional field since the equinox window closed is not a relapse into old patterns. It is not evidence that the work you have done has been undone, or that the stability you have built is less solid than you believed. It is something with a completely different mechanism, and the moment you understand the mechanism, the experience of it changes from disorienting to clarifying. The equinox activation opened frequency channels in the emotional body that had been sealed, not by conscious choice, not by spiritual bypassing, not by avoidance, but by a protective intelligence in the energy system that recognized these channels could only be safely opened when the system had achieved sufficient structural stability to process what those channels contain. That protective sealing was appropriate. It was intelligent. It served you perfectly for as long as you needed it. And now it has been lifted because the equinox provided both the external frequency conditions and the internal confirmation of readiness for those channels to open. What is moving through those newly opened channels is old, very old. Some of it predates this lifetime. Some of it is not even yours in the personal sense. It is collective emotional material that your system, by virtue of its particular configuration and its particular placement in the collective field, is designed to process and transmute on behalf of a larger group. This is not a burden. It is the specific function of the kind of being you are. But it does require that you understand what is happening, so you can hold the container for it consciously, rather than being swept by it without context. The sleep disruption that has arrived in the post-equinox window carries information that is worth examining carefully, because the pattern of the disruption is not random. It has a structure. It has a timing. It has a quality that distinguishes it from anxiety-driven wakefulness or stress-driven insomnia, and places it firmly in the category of activation-related processing. The pattern that Mira observes most consistently in the collective in the days following a significant activation is this: deep, rapid sleep in the early part of the night, often deeper than usual, with a quality of descent that is more rapid and more complete than ordinary. Sleep, followed by a return to partial waking somewhere between 2 and 5 in the morning, not from a nightmare, not from a physical cause, but with a specific quality of presence and a specific quality of awareness that has a luminous quality to it, as if the lights in the room are slightly brighter than they should be at that hour, even in complete darkness. This luminous quality is real. It is not visual hallucination. It is the perception of the light body operating at an elevated frequency, a frequency that the newly activated energy system is now capable of sustaining in the waking state that it was previously only able to access in the deepest stages of sleep. The activation has, in effect, raised the floor of your perceptual capacity. What was previously available only in the deepest theta states of sleep is now beginning to be available in ordinary waking consciousness. The 2 to 5 awakening is the moment when the consciousness, returning from its deepest excursions of the night, re-enters a waking awareness that is now capable of perceiving the elevated frequency at which the light body has been operating. And the perception of that elevated frequency is what generates the luminous quality, the expanded presence, the sense of having arrived somewhere, rather than simply having woken up. We have moved through the primary symptom clusters of post-equinox activation, and Mira wants to pause here to say something that is not a transmission strategy and not a rhetorical device. If you have been recognizing yourself in what has been described, if the fatigue, the emotional waves, the altered mornings, the luminous pre-dawn awakenings have been your experience in the days since the equinox, then you are not consuming content right now. You are receiving a confirmation, and that confirmation has a weight to it that Mira does not want to pass over without honoring. You have been carrying these symptoms alone, in most cases, without context, without someone who could tell you precisely why they arrived and what they mean. That aloneness is part of the post-activation experience that generates the most unnecessary suffering. It ends now. Comment below with the word activated if any of what has been described matches what you have been living in your body since the equinox. Not to perform a gesture, because the act of naming what you are experiencing in this space, in the company of the others who are here, is itself part of the integration process. The naming is not separate from the healing. It is the healing beginning. The sensory changes that accompany significant activation events are among the most disorienting aspects of the post-equinox experience for beings who have not had a clear framework for understanding them, and Mira wants to address them with the directness they deserve. What you are experiencing in your senses in the days following the equinox is not pathology. It is expanded capacity. The ringing in the ears that has intensified, not a medical tinnitus, but a high, clear, sometimes fluctuating tone that seems to come from inside the skull, rather than from the external environment, is the auditory system registering frequency transmissions that it was not previously calibrated to receive. The activation has recalibrated the frequency range of the auditory processing system, and the ringing is the sound of the new frequency range being tested. The way a freshly tuned instrument produces a sustained note to confirm its calibration. This ringing will not harm you. It will not damage your hearing. It will modulate and shift and eventually stabilize at a frequency that your system integrates as simply normal. And when that integration is complete, you will discover that you are hearing things you could not hear before. Not with the physical ears, with the extended auditory capacity that this activation has installed. The changes in vision, the increased sensitivity to light, the occasional peripheral awareness of movement or shimmer that resolves to nothing when looked at directly. The enhanced quality of color saturation in natural environments are the visual system undergoing the same recalibration process. The threshold of visual frequency detection has been lowered. The bandwidth of what the visual system is capable of registering has been expanded. What presents as increased sensitivity is the new floor of the activated visual system being established, and the peripheral awareness of movement that resolves when looked at directly is the visual system beginning to register the presence of energy structures and consciousness that occupy the space of your physical environment, and that were previously below the detection threshold of your visual processing. The relationship with food and appetite that has shifted in the post-equinox period is not a passing disruption. It is a recalibration of the physical system's nutritional requirements in response to the new energetic demands of the activated light body. And Mira wants to describe this recalibration precisely because the conditioned mind tends to interpret changes in appetite, especially reductions in appetite, as warning signs rather than as intelligent, systemic adjustments. Many beings in the collective are reporting in the days following the equinox that foods which previously felt neutral or even nourishing now carry a heaviness, a density, a quality of wrongness that makes them genuinely difficult to consume. This is not psychosomatic aversion. This is the physical body's intelligence communicating with precision about what the newly activated system requires and does not require. The activated light body operates at a higher frequency than the pre-activation system, and the physical body must adjust its nutritional chemistry to support that elevated frequency. Dense, heavily processed foods with low vibrational coherence, create interference patterns in the newly established energetic architecture that the system registers as discomfort, aversion, or a general sense of wrongness. This is the body's intelligence functioning at a higher level of sensitivity than it had access to before the activation. It is not asking you to be rigid or to follow prescribed rules about what is spiritual food and what is not. It is asking you to pay attention to the quality of your physical response to what you put in your body, with the understanding that that response is now a more reliable instrument than it has ever been. Trust the new sensitivity. It is not a fragility. It is a precision. Mira wants you to understand something about this transmission before we go deeper into what has actually been installed in your energy system during this equinox activation. Everything that has been described so far, the fatigue, the emotional waves, the sleep disruption, the sensory changes, the shifts in appetite. These are the surface presentations of something that goes far beneath the surface. They are the symptoms of a structural change in the fundamental architecture of what you are. And that structural change is not a metaphor. It is not a way of saying that you feel different or that you have had an inspiring experience. It is a literal, physical, energetically measurable reconfiguration of the light body that has already occurred, that cannot be undone, and that has installed capacities in your system that were not operational before the window opened. What those capacities are and what they mean for the life you are living from this moment forward is what this transmission moves into now. But first, if someone came to your mind during the last few minutes, someone whose experience of the past few days you now recognize as post-activation symptoms they have no framework for, share this video with them now, not later. Now, before we continue, because the framework you are receiving is the framework they need, and the act of sending it is itself an act of the activated system operating as. It was designed to operate as a node in a network, not as an isolated point. What has been installed in your energy body during this equinox activation is not one thing. It is a constellation of upgrades to specific systems within the energy body, architecture, and Mira wants to identify each of them with precision because the identification itself completes a circuit in the integration process. The first and most fundamental installation is what the Pleiadian High Council designates as expanded channel coherence, an increase in the clarity and reliability of the communication pathway between your higher self and your conscious awareness. Before this activation, that pathway was functional. You were receiving guidance, intuition, knowing, but the signal was arriving through a channel that was not fully coherent. There was interference. There was distortion. There were moments of clarity, followed by moments of static. The equinox activation has cleared a significant portion of that interference. Not all of it, but a portion that will be immediately perceptible in the quality of your inner knowing in the days and weeks ahead. You will notice that decisions that previously required extended deliberation arrive with a clarity that feels almost too simple. You will notice that the inner signal about what is aligned and what is not has sharpened, that you know sooner, more clearly, with more confidence, and with less need for external validation. This is not you becoming more certain in a way that risks arrogance or rigidity. It is the channel becoming more coherent in a way that allows the actual guidance of your higher self to arrive with less distortion. The quieter the static, the clearer the signal. And the signal is saying things that are worth hearing. The second installation that Mira identifies in the light body architecture of beings who received this activation is what can be described as enhanced timeline perception, an expanded capacity to sense the quality and direction of different possible futures from the present moment, and to navigate toward the highest trajectory with a precision that was not previously available. This is perhaps the most practically significant of all the activations installed during this equinox window, and it is also the one that is most easily confused with ordinary anxiety about the future if it arrives without a framework for understanding it. Timeline perception is not the mind-spinning scenarios. It is a felt sense, located most commonly in the solar plexus or the chest, of the quality of different trajectories emanating from the present moment. Some futures feel like open ground. Some feel like walls. Some feel like they are pulling the system forward with a gentle but unmistakable magnetic force. Before this activation, many beings in the collective had access to this felt sense sporadically, in moments of unusual clarity. After deep meditation, in the immediate aftermath of significant life events, what the equinox has done is stabilize this capacity. It is no longer sporadic. It is no longer dependent on special conditions. It is becoming a consistent feature of how your awareness navigates the field of possibility, the same way proprioception is a consistent feature of how your physical body navigates physical space. You feel where you are in relation to what is available to you. You feel which directions are open and which are closed. And you can learn to trust that feeling, not as infallible data about what will happen, but as reliable information about the quality of different trajectories and the alignment of different choices with the frequency you are now carrying. The third installation that this equinox has placed in the energy bodies of prepared beings is what Mira identifies as amplified transmission capacity, an increased ability to broadcast the frequency of your light body into the collective field around you, influencing the frequency environment of the spaces you inhabit and the people you encounter in ways that are invisible to the ordinary mind, but measurable by the activated awareness. Before this equinox, your field was broadcasting at a certain intensity, real, meaningful, contributing to the collective in ways that mattered. After this activation, the intensity of that broadcast has increased in a way that is already perceptible to the people around you, even those who have no framework for what they are perceiving. You will notice in the coming days and weeks that interactions are different. People respond to you differently, with a quality of openness, receptivity, and ease that was less consistent before the activation. Strangers make contact more readily. Conversations reach depth more quickly. People share things with you that they have not shared with others, without knowing why you feel safe to them. Animals respond to your presence with increased calm. These are not coincidences. They are the measurable effects of an amplified transmission field operating in the environment. The activated light body broadcasts a frequency that the nervous systems of other beings register as safe, coherent, and aligned, because it is. Your field is now communicating something to everything it touches that the ordinary field was communicating more quietly. This is not something you need to manage or direct or consciously maintain. It is automatic. It is structural. It is simply what the activated system does when it operates in the world. Mira wants to pause here in the transmission and speak directly to something that is arising in some of the beings receiving this message, a quality of doubt or minimization that sounds like this. Maybe this doesn't apply to me. Maybe I didn't receive the full activation. Maybe the others received something that I somehow missed. This is the most specifically targeted doubt in the entire repertoire of limitation. The doubt that positions itself precisely at the threshold of the most significant recognition a being can have, and Mira transmits to you with the full clarity of the Pleiadian perspective. The doubt is not evidence that you didn't receive the activation. The doubt is the symptom of having received it, because the activation expands the system into territory that the old identity cannot yet fully occupy, and the old identity generates doubt as a mechanism of attempted contraction. You feel the expansion. The contraction is the response. The doubt is not the truth of your situation. It is the last signal of the old frequency trying to maintain its position in a system that has already moved beyond it. If you have been recognizing yourself in this transmission, in any part of it, even one, you received what this equinox delivered. Press like on this video now, not as a gesture of agreement, as an act of the activated system choosing to affirm its own experience in the face of the doubt that is trying to contract it. That act matters more than you know. The integration process that follows a significant activation event is not passive. It is not something that happens to you while you wait. It is a process that requires your conscious participation, not your forced participation, not your effortful management, but your presence, your willingness, and your understanding of what the integration is actually doing. Mira wants to describe the integration process with enough precision that you can navigate it as an active participant, rather than as someone moving through an experience they cannot influence. Integration is at its most essential level, the process by which the newly installed capacities of the activated energy body are anchored into the physical system, into the cells, into the nervous system, into the habitual patterns of perception and response that constitute the lived experience of being in a physical body on this planet. The capacities are already installed. They exist in the light body architecture right now. The integration is the process of bringing them down through the dimensional layers into the physical experience, of making them available not just as moments of unusual clarity or expanded perception, but as the consistent, reliable, operational baseline of how you experience yourself and your world. This process takes time, not because the capacities are not real or not already present, but because the physical system integrates change at the pace that is appropriate for biological systems, gradually, organically, without being rushed. The beings who navigate the integration process most effectively are not the ones who try to accelerate it or force its results. They are the ones who provide the optimal conditions for it to proceed at its own intelligent pace, through adequate rest, through conscious attention to the messages the body is sending, through the cultivation of inner stillness that allows the subtle signals of the activated system to be perceived and responded to, and through the maintenance of environments and relationships that support rather than drain the frequency of the newly activated field. The practice that Mira transmits for supporting the integration of this equinox. Activation is not a formal meditation. It is not a ritual that requires specific conditions or extended preparation. It is a practice of presence that can be performed in the midst of daily life, while walking, while sitting in stillness, while in the first moments of waking or the last moments before sleep. And that, when performed consistently in the days and weeks following the activation, accelerates the anchoring of the installed capacities into the physical experience. The practice has one instruction: notice, not analyze, not interpret, not judge. Simply notice. Notice the quality of the first moments of waking before the mind begins its day. Notice the felt sense in the chest, in the solar plexus, as you move through your environment, as you make choices, as you interact with others. Notice when that felt sense opens, when there is an expansion, a lightening, a quality of rightness that the body communicates without words. Notice when it contracts, when there is a tightening, a closing, a quality of wrongness that the body communicates with equal clarity. Notice the quality of your energy in different environments, with different people, engaged in different activities. Do not do anything with these notices in the first moments of perceiving them. Simply allow them to register. Allow the data to accumulate. Allow the intelligence of the activated system to build its map of the new, energetic landscape you are navigating. The analysis, the interpretation, the understanding of what the data means. These will come. They come naturally in their own time, as the activated awareness develops the capacity to read the map it is building. Your only job in the integration period is to provide the data by paying attention. That is enough. It is more than enough. It is, in fact, everything. The collective dimension of what this equinox has activated in beings like you is the dimension that Mira most wants to ensure you carry with you when this transmission completes. Because the easiest misunderstanding of post-activation experience is the misunderstanding that it is personal, that what happened to you in this window is a private development in your private spiritual journey, relevant primarily to the quality of your individual life. That understanding is not wrong. It is simply incomplete. Every being who was activated in this equinox window is now a more coherent node in the collective frequency field of this planet. The amplified transmission capacity that was installed in each of you is not just influencing the people in your immediate environment. It is contributing to a field that extends across the entire collective. A field that every other being on this planet is swimming in, breathing in, being influenced by, in ways they may never consciously recognize. The coherence that the activation has installed in you is coherence that the field around you is now receiving as input. Every moment of your day in which you operate from the activated awareness, in which you make choices from the clarity of the enhanced channel, in which you navigate from the precision of the expanded timeline perception, in which you broadcast the elevated frequency of the amplified transmission. Field is a moment in which the collective frequency environment of this planet shifts slightly in the direction of greater coherence, not symbolically, physically. The field is real, the influence is real, and the sum of thousands of activated beings operating in their daily lives from this new baseline is a contribution to the collective that is orders of magnitude larger than any single dramatic event or public gesture could produce. You are doing the most important work of this era by simply being what you have been activated to be in the ordinary moments of your ordinary days, without announcement, without fanfare, without recognition from the world that does not yet have the framework to see what you are doing. Mira sees it. The Pleiadian High Council sees it. And we are transmitting this recognition to you now because you need to hear it from something outside yourself. Clearly, directly, without qualification. What you are doing matters. What you have become matters. The activation you received matters, not to your spiritual resume, to the planet. The misunderstanding that most frequently derails the post-activation integration journey is the misunderstanding of timeline. Beings who receive a significant activation, who feel the installation of new capacities, who experience the restructuring of the energy body, who live through the days of fatigue and emotional release and sensory recalibration, arrive at some point in the weeks following the event with an expectation that things should now be measurably, visibly, externally different, that the life circumstances should have reorganized to reflect the internal transformation, that the relationships should feel different, the work should feel different, the outer world should be showing clear evidence of the inner shift. And when that external evidence does not arrive on the timeline the mind expects, the doubt returns. The doubt that says, perhaps nothing really changed. Perhaps this was only feeling. Perhaps the activation was imagined. Mira transmits to you with absolute directness. The activation was not imagined. But the timeline of its external manifestation is not the timeline of the internal installation. The internal installation was immediate and irreversible. The external manifestation is the downstream effect of the internal installation operating in a physical world that moves at the pace of physical systems, which is slower than the pace of energetic systems by a degree that the impatient mind finds consistently frustrating. The external world will catch up. It is already in the process of reorganizing to reflect the new frequency you are carrying. You will see it first in small things, in the quality of chance encounters, in the unexpected arrival of opportunities that align precisely with the direction your activated awareness has identified as your highest trajectory. Then in larger things. Then in the whole shape of the life. This is not wishful thinking about the future. It is the mechanical description of how an altered frequency field influences the physical environment it inhabits. The field has changed. The field influences what it touches. What it touches will change to reflect the new influence. The only question is patience, with the pace of physical systems catching up to energetic ones. The final message that Mira carries in this transmission is directed not at the understanding mind, but at the part of you that has been waiting. Not for this transmission, not for this channel, but for the thing this transmission is pointing to. The part that has always known something that the ordinary world would not confirm. The part that looked at the consensus reality of the civilization you were born into and felt at a level below language, a quality of wrongness. Not a moral wrongness, not an angry wrongness, but a frequency wrongness, a sense that the world as presented was operating at a frequency that was not the true frequency. That something essential was missing from the official account of what is real, what is possible, and what a human being actually is. That part of you was not confused. It was not projecting. It was not spiritually bypassing the responsibilities of ordinary life. It was correct. It was perceiving something real that the available frameworks of the culture around it could not name. And the activation that this equinox has delivered to your energy body is the installation of the capacity to not only perceive that truer frequency more clearly, but to carry it, to embody it, to broadcast it through the cells and the field and the daily lived moments of an ordinary life in a physical world. You were not activated to leave this world. You were activated to transform it from within it, by being in it as what you actually are, rather than as the diminished version of what you are that the systems of the old frequency required you to perform. The equinox is complete. The activation has occurred. The integration is underway, and the life that unfolds from this threshold forward will show you, with a precision and a beauty that the pre-activation awareness could not have, anticipated exactly what it means to be what you have always been, now fully, structurally, irreversibly operational in the frequency you were designed to carry. Mira sees you. We have always seen you, and what we see is worth the world knowing. You have just received the full post-equinox activation transmission from Mira and the Pleiadian High Council. If this message landed, if any part of it resonated in the body rather than simply registering in the mind, then there are 3 things Mira is asking you to do before you leave this space. First, subscribe to this channel and activate every single notification. The transmissions that will follow in the days and weeks ahead are designed to continue the integration work that this message has begun. And missing them means missing the sequential stages of a process that builds on itself. Second, leave a comment below with the word activated, or describe in your own words the specific symptom or experience from this transmission that matched most precisely with what you have been living since the equinox. Your words in this comment section are not small. They are signals to every other being who arrives at this transmission after. You, signals that they are not alone in what they are experiencing, that what they are feeling is real, that the framework for understanding it exists. And third, whose face came to your mind during this transmission? Someone whose experience of the past few days you now recognize. Send them this video, not with an explanation, just send it. The transmission will do the work. You have been activated. The work begins now. We will see you in the next transmission.